Clash of Clans Podcast, OG, episode 22. All right, and welcome back to the podcast. I am your host, Scotty827, also joined by your other host, TipDog20.
The lovely TipDog20.
The lovely, ever beautiful. And joined and with us today in studio is the magnificent Ghostnite.
He's lovely as well. Very
Elite
lovely.
professional
And
Clash
sexy. He's so sexy.
player. Tip,
We're having a threesome right now.
in the Clash studio.
How we're doing that with me in North Carolina, you way up north, and wherever Ghostnite lives. I have no idea, but hey, we're having fun.
Really, in the Clash world, it's just three nerds talking about what they just rated. Basically.
Ghostnite, that's a very nice large COC you have.
Welcome, Ghostnite. Tip, do you want to give a fuller introduction and let?
Yeah, so I heard about Ghostnite obviously through Carl and the C2J podcast, and I've heard people talk about him for a long time. And I knew who he was, but I had never actually met Ghostnite.
The man, the myth, the legend.
Is he real?
Yeah.
Like, obviously he's sitting right here with us right now in this threesome. So he is real, obviously. But I didn't know if he was real or not until the clan that I'm in, which is the 12 Mutineers family. We buy bases from World Base Building. And I've mentioned them before on the podcast. And they do a great job. Like they offer a great deal on bases. They have some great bases, but we had one CWL where there was a few bases that weren't holding up as well as they should have. And so Ghostnite popped over and I saw the name that popped up in clan chat and it said FTB Ghostnite. I'm like, holy cow, this is the guy that I've heard about so much, but maybe he's coming over to see me. So I clicked accept. I was like, what's up, dude? Like, how's it going? He's like, oh, hey, Tip, how's it going? Yeah. And then we just got to talk a little bit. He's like, yeah, I'm here to check out the bases. And then it all clicked together for me. So Ghostnite is a professional base tester. And we buy bases from, I don't buy bases. So shout out to the clan leaders who actually spend the money to buy the bases. But he actually does professional base testing for this big base building company, which is World Base Building. And he came in and he was not there to see me. As wonderful and as popular as I am and as huge as I am, he was actually there to look at the bases that weren't performing as well in order to try to tweak them and to help us out in our CWL matches.
You cleared everybody out saying, no, guys, go get busy. He's here to see me.
He's here to see TipDog20 because obviously I'm the most important person in the room right now.
Go drop me a bath. I've got to get ready for our guest.
Grab me some tea, glass of wine, please. Thank you, Ghostnite. I appreciate that. So that's a little bit, just a brief introduction. He's also a professional esports player, which we definitely want to get into that. His story, which is, it's amazing from the fact that he proves that anybody can get into professional esports if you want. Because my understanding, and Ghostnite, I will let you speak for yourself, but you used to be your average, maybe even a little crappy player like me, right? Like just your average guy, got a 3-star every now and again, practiced a lot, got really deep into the mix. I mean, like really deep and powerful into the mix. And then you just moved your way up into kind of this professional level by starting off at the bottom and moving your way to the top. So how good of a job did I do in describing you, Ghostnite? Are you larger than life?
I'd say pretty good. I mean, it definitely has been a journey in the past year that I started esports.
So okay.
So it's just been a year. Like
yes.
you started this journey a year ago.
Yep.
Scotty, there's hope for us. In 1 year, we could be a professional esports player.
I'm just getting over the spam attack. So, okay. What did we leave out?
So the only thing that I can think of is, how I mentioned on this podcast, I'm a very average Clash of Clans player. And you're like, oh no, you're so good. Like you're such a great player, TipDog20. and my hit rate maybe 50%, maybe on good days, right? So Ghostnite, the reason why I say I'm an average player, Ghostnite's hit rate is 88%. And that's not 88% on your crap bases in Masters 1. That's 88% on professional built bases in professional Clash of Clans esports. So that would be the only thing as far as to set him up, as far as how good of a player he is, how effective he is at testing bases. And I just want to ask him a lot of questions about how he tests bases, also hard mode, like how is that affecting the esports realm? What does he see in the future of esports? Is Supercell friendly to esports players? Is Supercell friendly to base building companies? Like all of that, I want to ask. And then, of course, what he recommends if there's somebody who's listening who does want to get a little bit more competitive in the game.
So that's a tall order there.
That's a lot. Yeah.
Ghostnite.
It's all good. I got time.
All
Yeah.
right, so okay, just first off the bat, you're playing Clash, normal everyday player. Do you get bit by a radioactive spider, or what happens where you start to like
Flown from Krypton.
So like there's multiple different ways that you could kind of get into it. I mean, if you're a person that's just playing and you're like, oh, it would be kind of cool to play as a competitive player, you could either form your own group and start signing up for tournaments, stuff like that, or you could join the CCN, which is the Clash Competitive Network, and put out there saying that you're a player interested in joining a team, and someone will look you up and possibly give you tryouts, stuff like that. Or you kind of fall into it like I did. I ended up joining, the clan I'm in, Crystal joined, and they had pro players that were over there. And I just kind of got scouted as I leveled up. They were watching me do my hits and wars and that. And then I look in Discord and have a DM asking if I wanted to join.
So what level were you? Like, what town hall level were you when you?
Uh so I joined during where Town Hall 15 was max. And it was within, I would say, 2 weeks roughly of me turning Town Hall 15. I ended up getting
So
the
you're a
DM
baby.
asking. Yeah, I was a baby 15. I was really super late into Town Hall 15 because I had took breaks, stuff like that. So I was really grinding, trying to get to the top Town Hall level.
So when did you start your account? Like when did you start playing?
I started playing back in 2013.
Okay.
When I was younger, still in school and everything. Played all through my, uh, you know, years of I had left to school, and then after I graduated, I actually took some time off from Clash. I want to say I took time off from like Town Hall 12 and 13. Didn't come back until it was Town Hall 14.
Okay,
So I had to play catch up for a little while.
and that's what I'm doing right now.
Yeah. Yeah, and Scotty and I definitely did the same. So I took a break from 2016-ish to 2020-ish.
Hmm.
So I took a break before Town Hall 12 came out, and I did not come back until Max. So when I came back, Town Hall 13 was Max, and then a few months afterwards they introduced Town Hall 14. So that's kind of my journey. Scotty, when did you stop playing? So you've been playing
I don't
since
know. I must have.
2012, right?
Yeah. Yep. And then it's really hard to figure out exactly when I just wasn't like playing at all. But then just came back in the last like about 6 months ago now. Um, okay, so here's I've got so many questions. It's just like
I love it.
they're bubbling like so you come back to the game.
Hmm.
Are you professional at that point? Are you like a
Uh,
good player at that point? Or when did you become like a
I
very good
would
player?
I would say like I was maybe a little bit above average. Like I could do queen charges and that. Like Town Hall 12, I was doing like queen charge hybrid a lot. Just because that is what I like YouTubed and that's what they suggested. So that's how I found my armies and stuff like that. And it was just a lot of like loot practice hitting. Like I'm just searching for loot to upgrade my base.
Okay. And then when did you like say, "Hey, I want to get better at this," or did you like? I mean, did you like make a decision, or were you just like, "I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing because I'm seeming to be pretty
Mhm.
good, and the more I practice, I get better," or did you like, "Hey, I'm gonna dial in and kick some
Uh,
ass"?
so kind of like how I fell into it was that I was after joining Crystal to join there. Uh, I wasn't getting the triples, and I was over in the academy, and we had like a super big streak going. I mean, we kept the streak going until we had 32 wins, and unfortunately ended up losing it at that point. So there was a
Oh,
lot of pressure to
yeah.
triple. So I was starting to ask questions like, "Oh, what can I
No thanks.
do?"
I'm out.
Because
I'd be
I
out.
don't, I don't want to be that guy, you know.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be me. Okay. Sorry. It just horrified me. The guy that drops the ball. And so you must have kinda just got better then? Or did you,
hmm
like, dial into YouTube, or what was your best tool, like, getting better?
At that point in my stage, it was just relying on some of the better clanmates I had, and just asking them the questions, watching their attacks,
Okay.
and then just trying to duplicate it.
I'm curious, who did you ask for help? Like, who were the
Uh,
people in C2J Academy that you were
Yeah,
able to
did you have
get
mentors?
assistance
so
from?
like Town Hall 14, uh, the big thing was kind of like Sarch Hydra.
Okay.
So I ended up watching Big B do his attacks and
Mhm.
replicated those, and just kind of asked some little niche questions on it, on like, oh, like starch placement, how do you get like your invis timing, because all that was new to me, because before I joined the clan there, I was in a clan that was dead. I mean, I played in a clan with my father and I, and we were about the only two that were active at that point. So I had no idea what CWL was or any of that, and we never warred. So
What army comp did you use at Town Hall 15?
Town Hall 15, I used a lot of Sark super barbs.
Mhm.
Uh, and then I started getting more obviously into the esports, and then it started doing into the Titan Smash, and also Queen Charge Twin Hogs.
Which is a more difficult attack. Like,
hmm
Queen so, as far as difficulty, I'm gonna say that the
Did you hear my
Sarch
gulp?
Blimp you're Sarch Blimp it can be, medium risk, high reward as long as you land it in the right spot. So if your blimp gets caught up in, like, a tornado trap, or if you mistime something and, it gets taken down early with a couple black mines, like, obviously, that can go bad, but the difficulty level of a Sarch blimp, whatever, compared to a queen charge, whatever, like, there's a miles gulf between the
hmm
difficulty of those 2 types of attacks. And for example, like, I'm a decent attacker, but I don't do queen charges. I rarely do queen charges because it's tough to know what to go after with your queen charge. If you're too slow with your queen charge, then you're not going to be able to clean up the back end of the base with whatever army comp you're using. If you don't queen charge the right stuff, then whatever, if it's Lalo, for example, then all of your loons going to be taken down. So like it's infinitely more complicated to do a queen charge than it is like a Sarch blimp. So how did you make that jump from, oh, I'm just going to Sarch blimp everything, to where I'm going to start using queen charge for stuff?
I'm gonna grab my sweat rag while you're talking about
Yeah.
this.
So the nice thing was is when I was playing in that small clan, and that I was already Town Hall 12 and that by that point, and I was using that Queen Charge hybrid, so I had a little bit of that Queen Charge knowledge of like spell usage, because that's the biggest thing with Queen Charges. You got to know when to use your spells and when not to use them. You got to get the most value out of them.
Yeah, which is what me and Scotty have talked about a lot, like with your Super Bowler attacks, Scotty, using your rages in the right place, using your freezes in the right place, and visiting the troops where necessary. Like, spell placement is one of the main things that
Mhm.
really differentiates between like
The
a
master
regular
stroke.
average player or the player who's really good and can place their spells right.
Yeah. Yeah, like it's kind of like the the music, the background music of everything,
Mhm.
getting it right. It seems like I don't know why this question fell to me.
So if you're looking at armies that you use, and so Scotty and I both have Town Hall 14s that we're bringing up. Right now, we're both using Super Bowlers. I also use different forms of Lalo. Are there armies that you would recommend for me and Scotty going to Town Hall 15? I do have a max Town Hall 16, but for our Town Hall 15s or for anybody listening, because I mean, the majority of Clash of Clans players are like Town Hall 13, lesser 14, lesser 15. But obviously, I mean, do we start at Queen Charge in order to get better? Like, hey, just do it. Like go in there, queen charge, figure it out, or do you kind of work your way up with other armies that are maybe easier to implement?
Each one's kind of armies a little bit different. I mean, if you're interested in queen charging, definitely start full fledged going in and starting to do queen charges at that point because you ain't gonna get any practice queen charging if you're not doing it.
Yeah.
Is that something you're
It's
interested in, Scotty?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking about as you're talking about these things, I'm thinking about the things that you're bringing up that I'm not doing that you're talking about of, components of like major attacks that I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna have to build on that. I should
Mhm.
just practice that." And one of my tips, I'm just gonna throw it out there because I wasn't gonna say it, but I keep meaning to bring it up. A really good, it seems like for me, I was working on like a Queen Warden drop, and I just would drop them together.
Hmm.
What was awesome about it, it's you could get a really good idea of queen pathing doing it that way. And so dropping them both right on top of each other, like if you're just messing around and looking at pathing and stuff, like it gives a really good visual.
Yeah, I see. I mean, that is really powerful if you can drop the queen with the warden. The only difficulty that I've seen, and I'm not sure Ghost Knight if you have perspective on this, but I will do that from time to time, drop my queen with my warden, but sometimes it can be difficult with the transference to whatever the troop
Yeah.
comp is that you're
And
going to use.
and I just
Yeah.
mean it as like not as like a effective composition, but like if you're practicing
Mm.
and you want to see the pathing, like the aura,
Oh, that's true. Like the closest
on
building, and you use the aura to measure
yeah,
the
because
distance between buildings. That's interesting. I
because
never thought about
because I
that.
was looking
Mm.
at that and I'm going, oh, you can really see the queen pathing now. And when I was doing it, afterwards, it's like I have a better visual in my head, like a better true visual.
It would honestly be kind of cool if Supercell introduced a button that you could press to see the closest building or the closest threat. Obviously, they're never going to do something like that. But oh, hey, I
Oh
wonder which is
yeah,
the next closest building to the queen. Let me
there'd be
click
the
this.
giveaway to the strategy.
Oh, it's the barracks. Oh, that's cool. Okay.
Mhm.
Like that would be pretty awesome. Ghost Knight, you have any feedback on that?
Uh, I mean that is a great idea. I never thought of that. Um, if you want, once you do that, though, my next recommendation maybe would be if you're relying on your queen having that little extra health from your warden just to kind of get her to survive. So like big thing with like queen charge roots there at the start was use an apprentice warden
Hmm.
instead of using it with your roots. Use it with your
Oh,
queen, and you'll give her a health buff. Especially if you're going through, your Rico cannons, some really heavy hitting defenses. Because going into like double Rico cannons or even single Rico cannons with a queen charge can be super deadly.
Mm. True. Have you ever thought about
understandable.
using an apprentice warden?
Who, me?
Yeah,
Yeah, oh yeah, I experiment with him a bunch.
that's
Um,
interesting.
it's kind of cool, but I just haven't quite. He just doesn't seem to give me the trade off yet. But I'm still playing around.
Mhm.
I want to know. Look at now you're doing your stuff right. Um, did we answer the question about the armies? I mean, are we
Yeah, I think so.
okay? I just want to make sure I didn't like cut off because I'm
Uh,
just like, oh,
I would
sorry.
add. add one more thing. So how you said like getting into like queen charging and that. Best thing to do as far as also that is if you're already like a Lalo player, stuff like that, go into like Queen Charge Lalo. If you're a ground player, go into like Queen Charge Hybrid or something like that. So you have a reference of already you kind of know what you're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're a ground player and you don't know how to Lalo at all, I would not recommend, going into Queen Charge Lalo because then you're trying to learn two different aspects of the army at the same
That's true.
time.
Yeah, that's true.
So build on your skill
Yeah.
first. Okay.
Have you ever seen Queen Charge Super Bowlers?
I have not.
Stand back.
I mean,
might not be pretty, but
not
I'm gonna
where I
show
guess
you.
the queen charge is like super big. I guess I have seen like do the mini charge just for like the funneling setup. That was about it. What they used them for.
So a Queen Charge, just as far as definition wise, you're basically, and obviously this is a little different between Queen Charge Hybrid and Queen Charge Lalo, but you're basically, the Queen is on her own in a section of the
Mhm.
base, never pairs with the crux of your army, and then the army comes in on a separate portion of the base that's completely separate from your Queen. When with like a Super Bowler attack, the reason why we wouldn't necessarily do a Queen Charge of Super Bowlers is because the healers are needed to keep the Super Bowlers alive. Am I looking at that right?
Pretty much yes, because queen charge you're looking to get your certain value out of them. The only like niche thing I guess I've seen with the Super Bowlers is, like I said, they do the funneling and then they do like a mini charge. So instead of having your 5 healers, you'll have your 3 healers funnel on one side, have something else to funnel on the other side, and then they're recalling to put it with the bowlers and then putting down the rest of their healers. So
Why
that way
three
they
healers
I
and
could do
not
that.
four?
you could do either one, but a lot of times, like right now, instead of using their healers somewhere else or having the extra army space. So they'll bring like a healer puppet for like a mini charge.
Mm-hmm.
And then they'll just pop ability as soon as they put her down.
That sounds right up your
And
alley,
did you say
Scotty.
recall?
Yes.
Yeah, I know. That's like my comp.
Scotty just got excited.
Yeah.
Here, calm
I
down.
I do a lot of that. The okay, I could do that. I'm gonna
That's
practice that
interesting.
one a
I
little
think
bit.
we're gonna have to see some examples that way because I mean, like, so one of my issues is I'm very limited with the ways that I can 3-star. Like I can do Lalo at the lower town hall. So basically town hall 14 and below. Town hall 15 and 16, like I struggle with Lalo. So typically I'll use roots, or I'm actually using super witches right now at town hall 16. And then see the other army that I use a lot of. What else do I use? Oh, Super Bowlers, of course. Super Bowlers at Town Hall, 13, 14. I use a lot of those as well. But other than those armies, like I'm not really good at being able to 3-star. So expanding a little bit, I think would probably be next on my list in order to help me improve and get to the point if I wanted to start competing at a higher level like you do.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So you are now professional. You're playing on professional teams.
Mhm.
How do you get into the base testing?
So I kind of fell into that a little bit. Uh, so World Base Building and FTB, the team I play for, have like
Can,
a
can,
partnership already.
can you go into FTB what that is?
So FTB is Find That Base. I mean, we have 3 different comp teams. We have Find This Base, which is your main comp team, and then Found That Base, and then we also have FTB C2J, which is the Find That Base Crystal to Join category.
And Find the Space is a tool that players can use, right?
Yes, so it's a tool you can players can use on a website if you choose to use a web browser, and you can upload screenshots of a base and it will search the internet for YouTube videos, stuff like that, of how to 3-star that base. and you can rewatch and it'll jump you right to that part of the video. Sometimes it doesn't necessarily get you 100% that same base, just because people could tweak it a little bit, or
Mm-hmm.
it looks super similar. They also just came out with a bot for Discords. You can join the FTB Discord server, and you can upload it right through there, and it'll send you the results in your DMs if you'd like it, not publicly out there for everyone. And then they also just added a feature in there where you can screenshot a base, and you can actually get the base link from them, as long as it'll search the internet on either X or YouTube or anything and see if they can find the base link, and it'll DM you the base link if they can find it. So that way you have that base.
That is interesting. I'd never heard of that. So,
Yep, it's
and the
brand new
reason
thing.
the reason why this is cool is because that can't be used for cheating, because there's a 24-hour cooldown on
Yep.
base builds. But one of the things that I get frustrated with, and I'm sure Scotty, maybe you experience the same thing, but I attack a base and I don't 3-star it. And I'm like, man,
What are you
like
talking about?
if
You
I
least
my bad.
you don't
My bad.
3-star every attack.
You're right, I do.
Oh,
So, but I don't 3-star. You're so funny. I don't 3-star, and I'm like, man, like if I just had another freaking opportunity to hit that base, I would love to try it again. I mean, not even for the war stars. Like I just want to hit it again. So getting a base link, and now that we can FC ourselves, means I can hit that base link. I can bring it into my maps, and then the next day, 24 hours later, when the war's over, well, then I can hit it. I can hit it to my heart's content. Like that's a really cool feature that I didn't realize they had introduced. And something else I want to add too, this is totally free. I don't know if they're charging for like the base link feature or not, but findthespace.com is completely free. They have sponsors who do that, one of which is World Base Building, but players don't have to pay anything to upload this picture and to find somebody else possibly hitting this base on YouTube. Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, as far as I know, as far as like the website, it is free. I'm not sure about the finding the base link and stuff. I believe that
oh,
part is also free. So like me as like a sponsored player by them, I have access to our own like esports server that only the players are on, and like we get 100% guaranteed all that stuff for free. Like we run out of like our tokens that the bot uses or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and he'll just upload more for us.
Interesting.
so what do you do for that? I mean, what is your role? Do you get those bases and then you
So like I and one of the other players, our biggest thing of like when we're getting the base links to use the bases, it's because we want to use them in the esports category, or we want to tweak them so the traps are a little bit better for us using them in esports, because we'll be doing like friendly war competitions. There's a server you can join and do 5v5 town hall 16s just for
oh
extra
cool.
practice of hitting bases. But we'll be like, okay, this base defended our root attacks really well. Root's a big part of the meta still.
Hmm.
So we'll be like, we want that base so we can use this against teams that we know are going to be using root riders.
Interesting. So it's a modified way of being able to build bases as well. You
Mm-hmm.
see a base that you really like, you can possibly find the link to that base, or find this base will create the base and then send you the link. Like, is it an AI version of creating the
Uh,
base? That way you don't have to build it yourself?
so it does not create the base.
Hmm.
Then you would actually have to go through and hire a base builder or a base replicator, and then they would charge you in order to rebuild that base.
And then they could tweak the traps,
Yep.
make it a little bit different. So that way, if everybody's entering this one spot with a blimp, well, then you put the tornado trap in that spot, or whatever it might be. Like you find commonalities, which I'm guessing is part of your base testing roles, is entering it from traditional ways. And I know that base builders love doing this because I used to be connected with another base builder who would talk about how they would build bases specifically for players. So back
Yep.
in like Town Hall 14 days, I think it was Stadra on the Queen Walkers. I'm not sure if it was Stadra, whoever it was. One player was just P.E.K.K.A. Smash. Like that's all that they did. One player was Inferno Baby Drags. That's all that they did. One player, I think it was Stars, did Lalo, some version of Lalo. Like that's almost all that he did. And so they would build these bases that would look like, holy cow, this is perfect for a P.E.K.K.A. Smash. And you're going to come in from this way. This is absolutely perfect. But they would trap it up, hoping that Stadra, whoever does P.E.K.K.A. Smash, would be the one that would hit it, and that he would actually enter from this specific direction on the base. Like they would build the base specifically for that player. And then sometimes it would work. Sometimes they would take the bait. Sometimes they would choose a different base, maybe knowing that this is a little, play action. Like, oh, they're trying to trick me. Well, I'm not going to take that. I'm not going to take your bait, find this or world base building. I'm not going to attack this base because I know you're trying to trip me up. So do you do that? And then is that kind of part of your testing capabilities?
We don't necessarily for world base building. We test for like the general public.
Mm-hmm.
As far as thing, we don't necessarily nichely do it to certain players or teams, unless maybe someone says like so FTB. With us being partnered with them, we do use some of their bases, stuff like that. And uh Fatal, he ends up retrapping a lot of our bases for the certain teams. I mean, Fatal, he's a really good trapper. I would say he's almost one of the best as far as what I've seen. I mean, when Town Hall 16 came out, they had a verse Navi, the main FTB team, and he was able to trap them and cause them to have a 1-star, and ended up actually beating Navi because of his trapping.
Wow.
Interesting.
Even that just blows my mind.
Well, and
It's
it kind of just
special
emphasizes the importance of, yes, it's great to be a good attacker. Like it's great
Mm-hmm.
that you can 3-star, but it's almost, if not more important, to have bases that can trip up the opposition as well, which obviously in the current meta, which is a little bit easier, that's more difficult. But Supercell introduced hard mode, which, Scotty, I didn't know if you wanted to talk about hard mode a little bit, your perspective and Ghostnite's perspective on that.
No perspective here.
Yeah.
I love it.
I mean, honestly, I haven't seen it. I haven't looked at it or anything like that. So,
Love hard mode.
do you?
So
Yes.
we're not going to go down that road. So we made jokes about hard mode in the last episode that we recorded about how we both like it hard, but Ghost Knight sounds like you like it hard as well.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's great. I mean, you do not see very many like perfect dwarves anymore.
Which is
So it's had
that's
immediate
awesome.
changes.
Yeah,
Oh
that's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah. I mean, I think there's been one perfect war since hard mode has been released.
So I'm actually in a friendly war right now where I'm going to experience hard mode for the first time. And I'm going to pop my cherry and
You're
no
gonna get hard.
longer be a hard mode version or virgin. So I'm going to get to experience it for the first time. I'm a little nervous. So what should I, is there, what's the difference? Like, obviously we know the numbers is 5, 10, 15, 5% higher DPS.
Yep.
10% lower HP, 15% lower DPS for heroes. Like, what should we look for if we're going to be doing hard mode? And why is this such a big deal? Or is it a big deal, like among the higher level esports players?
It's a big deal just because as soon as you get a defense in a esports war, it's no longer the mindset of I have to be fast. Because at the start of the war and how it was before hard mode came out, you're like, okay, I gotta triple this base as fast as I possibly can. Because at the end of the war, it's gonna be a 15-15 war, and it's gonna be a who has a faster, goal,
Yeah.
So with like that being said, it's completely changes the game because now you're like, okay, I got a defense. I no longer have to focus on a riskier speed meta. I can switch to an army of, I know I can 3-star this base with this meta. It's just going to be slow.
The more strategic though.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting.
Like I wouldn't recommend, especially if you're not a very strong queen charge player, is do not queen charge in hard mode. It is very hard just because everything's doing a lot more damage, and your queen's even more squishy.
Yeah,
So
because of the less HP, that makes sense. Which might make sense to bring a Warden's Apprentice with your queen in hard mode.
Yep, unless you're queen charging into a Rico and then you're just wasting
Oh,
that
that's
space
true.
because the Rico ricochet is going to take out your unicorn and then
Yeah,
most likely your apprentice right after.
yeah, which makes sense. Which also, I mean, I've heard like what it's almost like Supercell has completely done away with the pets as far as the ricochet cannon goes because the Rico's going to kill the pet anyway, and if you have the Ricos on the outside of the base, well, there goes your pet. So, I mean, as far as choosing the pet to use, maybe if you're going to send your queen into a bunch of ricochet cannons, it might even be best to use a flying pet like the owl or even like the phoenix so that you can keep your queen going for longer later on. Like, have you had discussions about that at all?
A little bit. We've had a little bit discussions. I mean, mainly we still use the unicorns just for that couple seconds of extra healing.
Mm.
You know, especially before they get the Rico. Like we don't recommend you dropping it right down on a Rico because then you're just throwing yourself into the pit really early. But the as far as like Owl's a decent choice because we make the joke of they have the whole Coco loons to
Yep.
test for your red mines and stuff.
Coco Owl. Yep.
Yep, we say that we got a Coco Owl. Exactly.
Mm.
so what is your so with the change, right, to hard mode, what do you think like the war map should look like if it's well balanced? Like you're saying, it's not all 3 stars,
Yeah,
right?
so
What's like, and is that kind of where it is?
yeah, so a lot of times right now, a decent team that's pretty well off, other than like your top esports, like Navi, Tribe, stuff like that. Uh, most of them are getting capped out to 12 to 13 stars, possibly even 14 if they're a pretty really good team.
Mm. Interesting. Which we actually discussed. We're like, is this hard enough? Like, does it need to be a little bit harder? And Supercell has said they're gonna adjust it if they need to.
Hard mode
But
too.
from your perspective, hard mode is hard enough, no? Or do you think it should be a little bit harder?
I feel like it is hard enough, especially if you have versing teams with good traps, stuff like that. Like, big bomb placements are super important with the hero equipment now, stuff like that. Defending the certain meta hero equipment.
What is the what's a day in the life of a professional Clash of Clans or esports player?
Um, so I mean, my schedule's a little bit personally a little bit more busier because I actually am one of the reps for the FTB C2J team along with Fatal. So we have a lot of like negotiations for tournaments we have to constantly be doing, a little bit back and forth banter between reps of wins this war, wins that war, far as like trying to get things scheduled up. But other than that, for like the base player that's not being in the rep position, it's so we use like a bot called Apollo to sign up and say like, okay, this is when the war is. We'll normally post a little picture of the posting poster for it, and people will sign up saying whether they can make that time or not. It can automatically converts it to whatever their time zone is for them, so they know they can set alarms. Like we have a player over in Australia that plays with us, and we're mainly USA based for the C2J team. So he'll be like playing at 3, 4 a.m. in the morning with us.
Wow.
So he just sets an alarm while he's sleeping, wakes up, does his hits, goes back to sleep, or he just stays up and, keeps playing with us.
That's intense. Holy cow, that's intense. So you guys actually did Clash Worlds and you've done it every month since February, is that
Yep.
right?
And I have specifically, not all of the other players have, because for FTB at least, we combined all three teams. and we pick the
Okay.
what we
So how
can have,
uh,
whoever's available, and who currently has the better hit rates.
so how well did you guys do? Because there are rankings at the end of each monthly qualifiers, right?
Mhm.
And what's the best you guys have placed?
I mean, going into stage 2, the first month was our best. We had the best as far as, like, collective team, and, I think we went into stage 2 at, like, rank 70
Wow.
or something out of, like, 300 and some people. That was the first qualifier, so it was a lot bigger. It's kinda dropped off a little bit more as it's going on. You find a lot more, like, the elo system's kind of, in my
Mm.
opinion, a little broken.
Why is that?
So the past couple months that we have played, other than the first month the elo worked great. Uh,
What is Elo?
following, it's the ladder system they use to like rank how you're doing. So like,
Okay.
you'll get points for winning, which makes you have a higher rank, and then
Okay.
you'll have points. You'll lose a certain amount versus a different team that has a higher or lower elo. So
So
if
I didn't realize that Clash of Clans used Elo in anything. I The only reason I know what it is because I play Hearthstone, and there's an Elo ladder in
Mhm.
Hearthstone, and I play or Battlegrounds, Hearthstone Battlegrounds. And so if I win a match, that gives me a certain number of points to increase my overall score. And then in the next match that I participate in, I am paired with players who are close to my elo, which so that ensures that, a Klaus, for example, who's an amazing Clash of Clans player, and his team is not paired with somebody who's really, really low on the ladder. Like the better teams are going to be paired
Mhm.
up against, or more likely to be paired up against each other. Is that the case with Clash's elo system?
That's kind of the case, but we don't have enough teams that are signing up to really have an effective elo system. To me, they need to
Okay.
set some barriers because, like the past 2 months, we had, for an example, like an 1100 at the time we were playing for elo. Top teams are at like 13, 1400 by the time they're getting towards the end of their war caps because you
Hmm.
only can play 30 wars. So, like, we ended up getting matched up with, like, Mills team, and they were 200, elo points ahead of us, and it's just like, why are we matching with a team that's 200 elo points ahead of us? That's not even close to what our ranking is because each match, you're roughly getting, 16 to maybe at the very most 19 points if you win.
So you're warring all day or for multiple days. Are you warring all night as well? Like what you said 30 wars. So
Mhm.
those 30 wars, I'm assuming like the typical esports match is 45 minutes long. Like, is it 45 minutes for every single war, which essentially is what, 26.25 hours or whatever it is of nonstop warring for a day or 2 days?
So for the qualifiers, it's a little bit different. It's, the 5-minute prep you have going in, and then it's only 30-minute wars because there's no hit times.
Okay.
You can just hit the base whenever you want.
But that's still 15 hours of warring.
Oh, yeah, it is a ton of time to be able
Wow.
to invest. So, like, it depends on, like, uh, for player-wise, like, where your players are and making everyone work for the time. So, like, us, every night, we would start warring at, 7 p.m. in the Eastern time, and then we would war until 10, 11 o'clock at night and just keep grinding. And then on the weekends, we would have a bigger war day to where, we're starting at 11 a.m. and then we're going until like 5 p.m. or something.
So, how big is your roster? Because obviously, if you
So,
only have 5 players, somebody's not going to be available. Like, do you have 12 people on this roster or 6 people on this roster?
so you're allowed to have 6 people,
Okay.
one sub, and then traditionally, what a lot of teams will do is either someone that can't make the times work very well or has something come up, or in some cases, I guess most cases, uh, whoever has the lowest hit rate, because if you qualify for stage 2, at that point you have to drop one player and you're only allowed to have 5 players. So a lot of times they'll drop the player that has the lowest hit rate.
Which is fair.
Yeah, which is completely fair. And it just makes it harder because stage 2 you have certain times you have to play. So sometimes, like Australia, stuff like that, they're playing super early in the morning and not everyone has enough dedication to be like, I want to clash a clans at 3 a.m. in the morning.
Scotty, you want to sign us up? House of Elting?
Yeah.
And actually, you tried to sign up, right, Scotty? But you found out that you
Yeah,
had to
we
be a
didn't
Town
have
Hall
enough.
16,
Yeah, we didn't have enough 16s at the time to do it.
which we do now. But
Yeah, no, I think we would.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely recommend throwing your hat in the ring, even if you're not gonna like take it seriously or anything. It just kind of gets you a little introduction. I mean, there are some just random clans out there that you're like, these people rush Town Hall 16s in order to even play. Like we've ran into some people that have Town Hall 12 defenses, and we're just like, why? Thanks for the free win. Let's
Yeah.
keep going.
I could throw my strategic rush base in. So I have so Ghostnite. I do YouTube from time to time, and I have a strategic rush series. And I'm about to take my Town Hall 15 to Town Hall 16, and I've been doing it for I don't know 9 or 10 months. My heroes are actually almost Town Hall 15 max. All of them are almost. So I take that back. My king is at like 66. My queen I think is at 71, but my RC, my warden are either max or almost max. So I'm going to be going to Town Hall 16 soon, but I have like 5 archer towers that are at level 1. 5 or 6 cannons that are at level 1. Like I'm really strategic rushing this account. So maybe I should enter that base into the Clash Worlds competition. What do you think?
I mean, maybe you'll get lucky and verse one of those other rush players. It'll be great.
You trap it up.
Oddly
I'll
enough,
get Fatal
like,
to trap it, man. It'll take everybody down.
honestly,
Fatal's
funny
OP.
enough, these like rush people are trying to do like these super complicated attacks, and we're just like, this is not going to work. You don't have the skill level for this. They'll be coming in with a fireball or something, and their fireball gets forced because they can't keep their warden alive.
Yep.
And it'd be like, oh, there's the fireball on the outside of the base.
Yep.
Thank you.
Or they fireball onto a mortar that's in the corner. It's just like, what? You took down a mortar with your fireball? What are you doing?
You've obviously seen my attacks.
No.
Yeah.
Scotty is much better than he attributes to himself. I can verify that. Like Scotty, honestly, just in the time that we've started this podcast, so like the last 4 months or so, 5 months that we've been doing this, like you have improved so much, like
Yeah,
so
Tip's
much
teaching
to
me
the
really
point.
well.
It's not me. Like I would have to say it's Chewy, it's GCBC.
It's everybody. Yeah.
It was Fury whenever he was in the clan. Shout out to Fury. I know he's taking a break right now, but like it was like everybody was helping each other out to try to get feedback, and like it's just been a really great atmosphere for that, for sure.
And I think yes, 100%. And I also think the way the game's oriented now versus how it was in the past changes things because I get to practice with my war armies all the time.
Yeah, so free armies.
Yeah.
That
Like,
is really huge.
because I mean, to farm in the past and try to practice armies was just basically like to break even, in hopes. So being able to like run the comp all the time and change it up and practice and not have to worry about, not getting a hero up because you're training an army is a huge change for
So
me
we've
now.
heard about Ghostnite talking about the Sarch blimp and how effective that was at Town Hall 14 and 15. We've talked about that on the podcast. We really need to just sit down and do a session.
Yes,
Yeah.
we do.
I think that will be amazing, especially because we're both going to Town Hall 15 at the end of July, right?
Yep.
Might be
Yeah.
something to do, something to
Dial
consider.
in. Yeah, and there's been feedback and stuff too of yeah, we could get into more air stuff.
Ghost Knight, what would you recommend air wise for late blooming Town Hall 14, early Town Hall 15 attacker?
I mean, if you're not a very skilled attacker, go with that Hydra with Sarge blimps, or you could also, if you don't want to do a Sarge blimp and things are a little bit more compact on the base, a Blizzard does
True.
just as well.
Yeah, we need to
You
go
just
over
got to
that
be
as
a little
well.
bit, yeah, it's a little bit more riskier because Giant Bombs takes them out a lot easier.
Mm-hmm.
But and you really need to throw it into like a super compact base. But I mean, other than that, if you're a skilled attacker, I mean, definitely give Lalo a try.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
it's strong in every town hall.
So I'm not a skilled attacker, but I can recognize where a good Sarch blimp or a good Blizzard blimp can go in at, and I just take out 40% of the base with that blimp. Like
Mhm.
that's how effective it is. And these are against crap
Wow.
bases, right? These are against internet bases that we run across in regular wars and Masters 3 CWL, right? So it's nothing special.
So
So go ahead. Go
no,
ahead, Scotty.
go for it.
No, I was gonna ask about like testing bases next and like what he looks for, but did you have another question you wanted to ask before
Well,
that?
I was gonna go there. I just I wanted to ask what's your comp? What's your
Uh,
preferred?
so right now, I mean, with the like metas where they were, I was using a lot of root spam, dragon spam. Kind of learned dragon spam here not too long ago because
Mm-hmm.
as roots got nerfed, the dragons kind of became a little bit more popular using giant arrow. So it's a little bit more skilled because you have to be able to aim the giant arrow. But also, other than that, I can do queen charge Lalo. I can do zap Lalo. Uh, I'm learning a little bit of the super bowler attacks for niche spaces, but
Yeah, and dragons are super effective. A, because of the Rico cannons, like they're ground based. B,
yep,
because all expos are to ground right now because of how powerful roots are. And C, because everybody's putting ice golems in their CC, which an air army does not pull the ice golems. And as long as your heroes don't trip them, and if you can get the CC destroyed beforehand, like that's three
yep,
massive things when attacking a base that can take your army
yep.
down that just are taken out of consideration because you're using an air army.
Exactly. I mean, you have those 5 archers you have to worry about.
Yeah.
Big pro tip here, make sure you change your warden's pet to an air pet.
Yeah,
Because
true.
other than that, you are going to pull that ground CC, and do not send your headhunters through the warden ability because there's people that do that and then you pull the ground CC as well.
So I'm curious.
Oh
Scotty and I have
shit.
actually talked about
That
pets.
explains a few things.
What pets do you recommend then to put on heroes? And is there a
uh
different recommendation for? Obviously, Town Hall 14 we have 4 pets, like that's all that we can do. But Town Hall
mhm.
15 opens up a variety of pets that we can use. What is your recommendation?
So Town Hall 15, I mean, it's just the basic uh that everyone's been running, Phoenix on the King, and then Unicorn on the Queen, Diggy on the RC, and then the Warden, depending on what type of strat you're doing, and that you could either go with the Owl, or you could maybe throw in Frosty a little bit, or the Poison Lizard.
Mm.
If you're doing like something with hogs or something that target defenses, that's not an air raid or something. Poison lizard's a pretty good option because then you're taking out the skeleton and helping also deal with the CC at that point.
Huh. Okay.
Mhm. And then
I
16 opens up a whole different can of ideas because then your full base of attacks are available to you. So
Hmm.
then at that point, it depends on what army you're using, stuff like that.
Have you
awesome.
used the Angry Jelly at all?
I have not personally. I'm in the process of hopefully trying to learn how to do some fireball stuff. So, depending on the base and how far I want my warden to get in there, then I'll be looking at getting the
Mhm.
angry jelly or using it. I already have it maxed out, obviously, just in case I do want to use it. But I've watched some other people do it with the fireball before hard mode came out, and it works pretty well as long as you don't get your warden into too much trouble.
Yeah, so I found I use Angry Jelly in my Warden, and again, keeping him alive It's not, honestly, I found that it's not completely necessary to triple the base as long as you can get the value with the fireball that you need to get.
Mhm.
The warden can die. Like I've accidentally, again, average player, like I've accidentally let my warden die and I've sent in my super witches and I've still tripled the base with ease because the fireball got a ton of bases, mainly on those bases that are like troll bases where you have, 6 or 7 defenses, 2 Rico cannons, an Inferno tower, maybe the monolith, like all under one Invis tower. Whenever I see that, I'm like, sucker, like really? And so I'll send the fireball, throw down my quake. It destroys everything. And then whoops, multi-archer tower that I didn't see as I was putting down my other troops took out my Grand Ward. Well, I'm still able to 3-star because of the huge value that I was able to get up front with that fireball.
Yeah, exactly. And another great use of the fireball is taking out those big rage tower rings.
Mm.
People put those Ricos and stuff like that in that big rage ring to, kill out your army super quick when it pops. And well, if it ain't popping, then you ain't killing my army.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Interesting.
So you're gonna look at a base. You go in fresh? Do you scout it first, or what are you looking
So
for?
far as like testing wise, I like to hit them as if they're legends hits. We obviously use whatever meta armies are being able to use. That's kind of why we came into the Tip Dog's clan there that he's in and looked at the attacks. We're kind of looking at angles people are coming from, whether they're typical angles or kind of some odd angles, or if what armies they're using, especially at that point, the roots had got another nerf. So you'd kind of think, oh, because the roots got another nerf, these should be able to defend a lot better, even though we sold them before the nerf.
Yeah.
And not necessarily will they always, because people at that point have adapted to what their army comps are or
Mhm.
something like that. So like during that set, Queen Charge was really not a big thing before that. And then we seen people started to adapt to the root nerf and they were doing these queen charges, but instead of just having all root riders like they previously would, they would start running a overgrowth with a mini Felk root spam,
So
which
whenever you're uh, attacking a base or whenever you're
Like
testing for a
rage.
base, obviously right now Root Riders and Dragons. Like those are the main 2 armies that I would say a majority of people use. So when I'm looking at my Legends defenses, I would say that 60% of the attacks on my base, maybe higher. Some days it's higher than that, but 60 to 65% you still use Root Riders. I would say the other 30% use dragons, and then maybe 5 to 10% will
Mhm.
use something like Queen Charge Hogs or, you know, Super Witches, like something minor. So
yeah,
whenever you're testing a base, do you test it for Root Riders and dragons at the same time? Or are you like, well, we can't really build a base that's good enough to defend against both of these attacks. So therefore, or this base is good for Root Riders or it's good against dragons.
exactly. Kind of what you just said there is you can't build a base to defend every single army, or sometimes it's really hard to have a base that combo defends both meta armies. I mean, so as far as like legends and then esport bases, they're 2 completely different style bases. I mainly do the testing on the esports side for basing, and then we have separate testers that test for legends bases.
Hmm,
Just because the metas are completely different at that point.
right.
Uh, so I mean, we heavily test over on the esports side a lot of root riders, one jump, one overgrowth, uh, a little bit of the Lalo setups. We have certain testers that do the Lalo setups because not everyone knows how to Lalo that's on the test team.
Hmm.
What can you tell from a base looking at it that you couldn't tell before you started testing?
That's a
A
good question.
lot
Yeah.
of it's, yeah, just learning your base knowledge and looking at all those small little things of uh typically, I look at these bases, the this is where normal people would enter. So I'm thinking, where is there a Tesla farm in this that's gonna, mess up the king or make a queen charge super hard? Or I'm also trying to think ahead of, is there a big bomb farm somewhere as well? Because with the hog puppet being such a big thing right now and being such strong equipment on the RC, uh builders have to defend against the hog puppet specifically. They're trying to time out to when do I think, or am I going to force you to use your hog puppet so that way I can have big bombs ready to destroy your hogs so you're not going to get as much value.
Wow.
So I imagine base building on the esports side is more heavily dependent on trapping because
Mhm.
obviously when you're building a base that professionals or high level esports players are going to hit, if you're just putting out just a regular Legend League base, like they're probably going to be able to three start, if not every time, almost every time. So you're looking for, okay, if a professional player looks at this and they're likely to come in this way with a queen charge, well, I'm going to put 5 black mines right here in the beginning, of this likely queen charge entry in order to try to kill all the healers, when that may be waste for a Legend League attack because nobody's going to do a queen charge entry from that side likely with just a Legend League army. So are you more trap based for the esports side?
Yeah, we're a little bit more trap based, and for that side, really got to look at kind of how you brought up the, dragon armies. Like, we don't really have to test for them. The main thing we look for a testing for the dragon army is stopping the blimp. If you stop the blimp, no,
Uh,
most likely it is going to cause the attack
that's
to start.
interesting. That is interesting. I
So
never
we
thought
just
about
look at
that.
tornado placement for if it's going to be like an anti-drag base.
Does Supercell need to add another anti-blimp trap in the game, do you think?
I don't think so, just because it would make things a lot harder for a team, and then they could pretty much like double trap your blimps,
Right.
and that it would make, it'd make the blimp super irrelevant anymore, and a lot of people would go away from it at that point.
So I'm curious, when you look at a base as a tester, how do you determine if you're testing with the Dragon Army? How do you determine, and this is a two-part question, where the tornado trap is likely to be? And from the perspective of a base builder, how do they determine where to place the tornado trap? Like, is there this aspect of, well, the attacker is likely to bring in the blimp from this side, but they also know that I, as the base builder, know that they're likely to bring the blimp in on this side. So I'm going to put it on the other side. But then the
Mhm.
attacker's going to know that I will likely know that they know where the tornado trap is. So I'm going to put it on this side. So I'm going to put it back in the original place in order kind of like this
The
double
So
prisoner's
trick.
dilemma.
that's where testing gets a little bit harder, is that you have to try to put your mindset, because we also do CWL bases on the esports side.
Hmm.
So you have to put your mindset in. If you're selling these bases to a Champs 2 clan, they're going to be versus people in Champs 2. You have to put yourself in the mindset of, okay, I'm not attacking this as like a professional player. I'm attacking this as if I'm a Champs 2 everyday player.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you kind of get into, the testing can sometimes be a little bit skewed. And that, I mean, there's times that we reject bases all the time, but it's all like, would the everyday player do this? So like when we test bases, we go into a private clan that we have, so the builders can hop in, watch replays, stuff like that of us hitting, and we'll hit their base with the army normally from all 4 angles, especially with like something like spam where you could come in from all 4 angles. Because there's also a lot of people don't really pay attention, but there's things that you just passively do as like if you're a right dominant person, you're more likely to be sending your blimp and everything from the left side of the screen.
Because you
Just
can see
because
it
it's
better.
I
yep,
knew it.
exactly. You can see it better and it's less comfortable. That's why, you know, majority of the population is right hand dominant. So it's a little bit harder to trap for the people that are lefties, stuff like that.
Interesting.
kind of have to set up the base specifically for them.
I also tend to attack from the bottom. Like if I'm looking at a base and have the option to attack from the top or either side, and the bottom looks like it's decent entry, and especially if I have 30 seconds and I'm in Legend League, I would say 90% of the time, if it looks okay, I'm going to attack from the bottom anyway. Like, is that taken into consideration in your testing?
Yep, exactly. It's kind of what your eyes draw to right from the start, because like when root spam was a big thing when 16 came out, it was, opposite and going into the town hall. Those were the two main entries that everyone was doing, other than 12, 3, 6, and 9 dumps, where they're just dumping their whole army. But if they were a little bit more organized and strategized, they would either go opposite of the town hall wherever it was, or they'd go
Mhm.
straight into the town hall and warden over the town hall.
But then you come back to that prisoner's dilemma where if the good players are dumping opposite of the town hall, well, then I can place all the traps there in order to prevent them from getting to the town hall and possibly or likely getting a 1-star at the same time.
Exactly, and we know as the testers what the base is being used for, so they'll straight out say like, "This is what we want in the clan castle. These are the entries we've tested." Uh, that also, is this being a champs sold in like a certain level champs for CWL, or is this straight up built for esports? And depending on, like I said, which one it's listed as, we'll test it differently. So like esports is the like highest testing, because we're planning that they have at least 5 minutes of planning on this base. So what is their likely stuff they're going to be doing?
Wow. It's like the CIA of Clash. Covert ops, figuring it out, what the enemy is
CAA.
thinking.
Oh,
I mean, one really good perk of getting the
so
opportunity and privilege to test all these bases. Sometimes we'll run into people that are running world base building, and we'd be like, we know who built that base and everything, and we specifically tested this base because there's 3 of us on the team that approve the bases to be sold. Every base for the esports side has to go through one of us 3, and we normally take a look at all of them. We'll talk about it sometimes if it's a very controversial base. So I mean, we'll be like, here's all the traps, and we're gonna triple this.
Wow.
does world base building build different bases for different CWO levels? Because you mentioned, like a champs 2 level clan versus like, do you have a masters 1 level clan bases and then champs 1 level bases
I
as
think
well?
they have I think for world base building they do champs 2 and champs 1.
Okay.
Uh so like champs 1, you're versing, top players, you got, the pro players that are in champs 1 that are just hopping into clans to, you know, get their pay, I guess you could say, and
Mhm.
get their 3 stars from people. And then you have your, champs 2, champs 3, where you're above average players, where they're not going to be doing everything perfectly, stuff like that. And they might not be running whatever the meta armies are necessarily,
Yeah, that's true.
or get things perfectly set.
Oh, that's interesting.
Mhm.
How how much time or how many times do you think a base that makes it to one of of the top tiers, how much time do you think it's been tested?
Uh, well, they have like their every builder has assigned testers. Other than they're not assigned to the 3 that approve, because we have a super busy schedule having to test every single base. Like we personally have to load the base, wait the 24 hours, test it. So it's
Wow.
however many times they test it, and then their tester says it's good, and then they have to go through us. At that point, get submitted by one of the other admins to get pushed to us, and then we test it, and we'll either, tell them join the clan, watch the replays, post screenshots if for some reason we don't do it in the clan, and being like, either you need to fix this base, or you can decide as a builder If you don't think you can defend what we want, you're scrapping the base and restarting.
So is there a possibility that bias enters the testing process? Because you said each base builder has specific base testers that they use. And this is not an accusation at all, but if I'm a base builder, I may think, oh, I know that Ghostnite's going to be one of the testers for my base. And Ghostnite, really likes Sarch Blimp. So therefore, maybe there's just some unknown bias that enters the base building process because they want the base to be successful against you specifically and not necessarily the general public. And I realize that's maybe a little deeper.
Mhm.
I'm just curious if you have seen or talked about that
And
at
that's
all.
kind of where we have like the 3 people, and they don't know which one of the 3 of us is
Okay.
grabbing the base.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's completely after the fact. Like they don't see any of our chat stuff like that, but like we have the admin controls as the 3 top testers that we can go into like their builder chats, see what they're saying, or try to give them input on things we think they either need to do better, or telling them our honest opinions of the base. Sometimes they're good opinions, sometimes they're, we're not so nice because we're like, what were you thinking kind of thing. Like, this is not, your standard of quality.
Mm.
And obviously, some builders take really well to that, and then some of them got a little bit of a, ego to where they think they're, a top builder, and that some of them are, and sometimes they just have a bad base. And they don't take very kindly to that.
What's the what do you think is like the top quality of a great builder?
I mean, we have a few in like world base building, uh, but a lot of them get signed to like teams specifically.
Oh.
Like they'll get signed to a team, and then they'll also build for world base building on the side. So they'll have their own like contract and everything they have to fulfill, and then their extra bases they'll sell to Willow Base Building to sell out to the general public. So, like, for instance, I believe he's retired now. He ended up stepping back, but Tris he used to build for Vista Ridge,
Hmm.
and he had some really great bases. He was an upcoming builder for sure, and he was a hot market for a little while for people wanting his bases. And
Do the good builders just do something new?
not necessarily, it's just their knowledge of base building and knowing how to, do the traps, where to put the defenses, stuff like that. Because like root riders, one way to like get rid, I guess, better at root riders, and also for the builder side of it, you have to think about, okay, these are defense targeting troops. What is their flow going to be through this space? How much walls are they going to be opening? And are they going to be pathing to the core or going around the core, or where their pathing is leading them?
How many base builders does an esports team? So like Navi's obviously one of the best teams in Clash of Clans right now. Do they just have one base builder on their team, or do they have multiple base builders that are?
Generally, they'll have like 1 to 2 builders. They'll have like a main builder and then like a side builder. And but like some of those esports teams, luckily, like General X and stuff, obviously he builds and that. So like he can put in a lot of input and also build bases as well.
Hmm.
My mind is blown.
It's pretty deep, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like seeing a whole
Yeah, it's a whole like new world of things. It can be overwhelming at times. Like if I told you the amount of hours I put into Clash according to my tablet,
uh-oh.
there is one of the other testers that has more hours than me. Uh but I mean at 1 week I had over 60 hours.
Mm,
Wow.
wow. And there like let's be honest, like the base building companies, they aren't, pulling in millions and millions of dollars, but like there's some pretty big money out there in building bases and that like these Clash World Championship level teams, like they have to pay decent money to a base builder
Mhm.
because as we said, like sure, attacking and being able to 3-star is important, but it's just as, if not more important, to have solid bases. And just because somebody can 3-star doesn't mean that they know how to build a base at all,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And that's just they know how to pick apart a base if they
Right.
know how to 3-star or, depending on what the army is. But like, yeah, there's a really big market for really good base builders, and they can have some really nice bonuses in their contract depending on if they defend or not. So like I know one builder, I'm not like super friends with them or that, or haven't really talked to him, but words get around of, what's going on with other teams, stuff like that. There was a team that was in the last qualifier that every time his base defended in, stage 2 and stage 3, stage 2, he got a $500 bonus for every base that of his that defended, and in stage 3 he got $1,000 every
And
time that they would fail.
how many
Wow.
matches? Like, so that's what, 20 matches maybe?
No. So that's stage 2 and stage 3. I believe there is about uh 6 to 10 matches, I want to say.
Okay. So the possibility of making 5 grand, I mean, assuming it defends 10 times,
Mhm.
and a bonus off of building one base.
Yep.
Wow. And that's how much,
Exactly.
like, that's what the market calls for.
Yeah, especially right now is they put that incentive there because it is so hard to defend armies without hard mode currently.
Do you think that'll change? Those bonuses will change now that hard mode has been introduced?
Uh Especially, yeah, with the hard mode being introduced, they ain't going to be seeing those bonuses, and plus those bonuses were maybe, bumped up a little bit just because it was for a golden a ticket event.
Right.
So there's a lot more on the line.
So how does this sound? To whom it may concern, I hereby resign from my position effective. I might as well I'm just gonna quit. Does that sound good? And next month, 2 weeks? Okay.
Which also shows the
Now I gotta get
difference.
some talent. And then I will be oh,
Practice,
what?
practice, practice. That's the best thing I can tell you.
Yeah,
But I
holy
mean, it shows the gulf between the average casual
Mhm.
player, even a player who's in Champs 2, like the average casual player in Champs 2 who's good versus this professional whole realm of esports world that admittedly I don't keep up with. Like there's been drama recently and I don't even know who the players are that the drama is about, but everybody who's in that esports realm, like it's just a completely different world. Like it's an amazing to me how much difference there is in this game that we just load up every morning on the toilet, right? And
I
I
feel
I
like I
upgrade
just
my Archer tower.
opened the wardrobe and found fucking Narnia there.
Yeah, it's kind of like how you guys were saying, you're at Town Hall 14 currently on some of your accounts, and you're having trouble tripling. Where me just the other day, I have a brand new, like fresher Town Hall 14, barely got heroes leveled up at all, maybe like 1 or 2 levels on the Queen. That's it. And I was complaining in our CWL chat that they
Easy.
brought these nerfs that it's too easy because I'm queen charging a whole base and then using the king and RC and that's it. Like I'm
Yeah.
swagging the warden and all my Lalo
Yeah.
out of base.
That's how I feel too, but I don't wanna leave
Like
them, like,
when I was a Town
feeling
Hall
bad about
13,
themselves.
yeah, yeah, like when I was a Town Hall 13, I mean, I had got like an 89% on a like max Town Hall 16
Hmm.
because the state of the game, a lot of people think that the root riders are the big problem. And as like a base tester and stuff, I can tell you that the root riders are not the problem with the meta. It is the hero equipment that it is so broken.
Hmm.
Really? Just throws it out of whack or
Yeah, they're just so strong and you can get so much value out of them. So like how you used to, run into a Tesla farm and Skelly farm to, stop your king. And now if they have the giant gauntlet, they're all gone.
Hmm.
You can set up a really big funnel for like queen charge root riders just diving into the side with your king and taking out a whole big compartment.
Mm.
How do you see it fixed? Or to, like, bring in balance?
I don't really think there's a good way to do it. Not that's not going to upset the community.
Mhm.
Mm,
And that's the really big problem they introduced is now they have it set in there. People spent all these resources. Some people even spent money on these ores.
Mhm.
oh, and then
I
locked
know,
in.
yeah, I would say I know a guy that actually spent real money and he has max equipment for every single thing right now.
Yeah, and it
And
just it shows
I
the
mean,
gulf too, right?
exactly, you're talking about hundreds of dollars that this guy invested into this. And to one day wake up and be like, "This equipment got nerfed or something," you're
Yeah.
gonna be very angry.
You have to
Even if
kinda
you
bring everything else up.
exactly, especially if you just spent, a month maxing out a epic equipment or something by just farming wars. You're not gonna be very happy if, you just farm that up and now it's not as good.
What do you think is the most underutilized or the hero equipment with the most potential?
I mean, there's still what I think the hero equipment is broken as far as like hog puppet for the RC. That to me, that's non-replaceable, really.
Yeah,
Uh,
beautiful.
Healing Tome has took a huge role to where it's starting, especially for like Lalo stuff like
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You'd always be like, "Oh, you think I need the life gem to keep my balloons alive?" And when actually you can Healing Tome through multi infernos in that now,
Ah, that's
stuff like
Oh.
interesting.
that, and it lasts more than what your tome is.
Right.
So it's like a extra like mini tome, you could say, where the only way they're going to take out your balloons if they have a bunch of red bonds all at once,
Mm,
or a whole bunch of damage at once, and then you have a couple freezes you can use.
mm. That's interesting.
And then you got your giant gauntlet and the rage vial for your king. He gets a little bit more controversial for like what people think you can use. There's some people that like the spiky ball. It's good for certain attacks. Uh, some people like the vamp stash. I'm a very like anti-vamp stash person just because I don't like it. To me, there's better useful equipment. And then Queen, she with the meta shifting and stuff, her equipments became a lot more versatile. You got
Hmm.
the giant arrow for your dragon attacks to take out air defenses, stuff like that once you get to level 17. Uh
Wow.
Invisvile, the healer puppet's a really good option. If you're doing a spam attack or something, and if you're sending your queen on the outside to funnel, you use the healer puppet to keep your queen alive,
Mm,
or she's available on the backside of the base. Where if you're going to be sending her into the core of the base, you're using the frozen air and the invisvile because you need that extra DPS suppression, and if she gets targeted on by like the mono or something, you're able to have like a little saving grace
Reprieve.
and protect her a little bit.
Huh.
I mean, the only ones that aren't really used anymore is like the archer and barb pup, I would say, and earthquake boots on the king. They're not really used because you have root riders and all this other stuff. I mean, I'd say earthquake boots are a really good option for like low town hall, like nine stuff like that.
Wow.
lot to think
Well,
about.
I know because just you casually mentioned a couple of these things, and it's like, well, I didn't think about that and that, and it's like my brain's just click. Whoop,
Hmm.
oh, it's in,
Just like
I can see, yeah, just
Dra-
common assumptions I've
yep.
had.
Another like popular dragon attack. If you're not going for like speed, instead of using a blimp, use a flinger to set your funnel on one side, your heroes on the other, and then you use the frozen arrow and healer puppet. You pop her ability right away, and then you have like a mini hero charge with your queen
Mm,
and king together. Then you
mm.
just spam in.
Uh,
Interesting.
well, do you have some more questions or something we didn't get to? Tip, we're
Yeah, I
getting
don't.
about a 1 hour and a half, so we should
I have to.
probably
I'm gonna
wrap
have
up.
to think about all of this and
Ye-
re-listen, and maybe like in a few months we can have Ghost Night back because I'm sure there will be a lot of questions on my brain that I would be like, crap, why didn't you ask that? So we'll
Yeah,
figure
it's
that out.
like apparently I walked up the mountain and talked to the
Mhm.
guru, and as I walk back down, I'm gonna have so many questions to think
A
about.
little
Like,
bit stumbling down.
yeah, and I'm gonna be yeah, exactly. And then I'll be editing, going, "Oh my god, what about I didn't think to ask this." It's
I guess
not.
a little information, I guess, tip to go with you if you're a person out there that's willing to spend a little bit of money to get better at the game. If you're interested into an army, look into master classes for
Okay.
sure.
Which is with who?
Uh, normally base building services. I know
Mhm.
World Base Building has some. Blueprint has some really good quality ones as well. Uh, but they're with normally esports attackers or someone that's well known for that army,
Mhm.
and they will give you an hour video that they send to you, and you'll have unlimited access to.
Mm.
And they will teach you the ins and outs of that attack from that point of whenever they made the video.
Interesting.
So, like,
Wow.
Uh, Blueprint has a really good one for when root spam was a super big thing. I don't know how much relevant it is now, but we had a person buy it, and it's for root spam with Max. He's a really good root spam attacker. And then I ended up giving my own personal masterclass to our C2J clan and did a live and everything, answered questions before a CWL, so that way we'd hopefully have a little bit better CWL.
I
Very
didn't even
cool.
think about that. I had no idea that that stuff even existed.
Yeah, and they're relatively not super expensive. I want to say anywhere from $7 to $10.
Oh, that's not bad at all.
And some of them, if you go through a base building service, most of the time you'll also get a private chat or access to a private chat where you can ask the coach, as they call them, the questions.
Very cool.
Yeah, wow. So many new words to learn too.
Mhm.
After today. Shout outs.
Ghostnite, you have any?
Uh, I mean, obviously, anyone that I played my esports with, everyone from FTP, they're great. They're awesome. I love playing with all of them. Uh, Obviously, to Nico from World Base Building, he allows us to do the testing, and it's opened up a completely different side of the world. And to you guys asking me to be on the pod, here I was thinking, I'm just an average esports player.
You're a god,
Is your
sir. You're a god, sir.
I wanted to shout out Osix Pat because it's really exciting to see. It's really fun to see how excited they are getting with Clash of Clans. So obviously, shout out everybody in House of L. But I mean, just was it today or yesterday? He was talking about like hero equipment and pets to use and the six builder, like, and to see that excitement, like we've been playing for a long time. And so sometimes I forget like how exciting it is to think about hero equipment from a different perspective or the clan capital attack from a different perspective.
He just
So,
returned to the game after 3 years
yep,
off. So
after saying, "Oh, I'm not back. I'm not
I'm
back,
not.
guys. I'm not back." I love it. So shout out to Austin Spat.
Shout out to House of L. Shout out to everybody who's dropped off Capital Gold, and shout out to Ghost Knight for being here.
Mhm.
Do you do socials?
I mean, I have a Twitter. I have to look it up here
Oh,
actually
you,
for a second.
okay.
Or
Well,
if people wanna talk to you, like, would they hop into the C2J Discord server
Yeah, I mean, hop
or
into the C2J. If you don't see anyone that's named Ghost Knight, it's because I'm nicknamed Goat Knight over there.
Good night? Bat, bat, bat.
That's awesome.
But yeah,
That's
I mean,
hilarious.
you can look me up
Did
over there, or
did Magic Knob name you that?
no, I think it was a joke with Carl that ended up getting it, and then he sending me like goats and night outfits.
Oh, that's funny. Hilarious.
It's people who find
Mhm.
clashers phones and like we're going through contacts, like some of them on on mine, Sasquatch, Dirty Pirate, Mailman. It's like all these
Tip Dog 20.
Tip Dog 20. Ghostnite.
That's
It's like,
hilarious.
Mhm.
well, you can get a hold of us at Clash of Clans Podcast at gmail.com, or go to the website clashclanspodcast.com, or get a hold of us by phone or text at 320-216-2073. Clash Tips for Tips YouTube. Check it out on YouTube, and Clash Tips Podcast. Did I forget anything?
I think that's everything.
All right. Well, keep it clashy, everybody.
Keep it clashy.
Skilly beep 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 skilly beep.